It's no kids, right? Yeah, not prior knowledge, engaged. So, I have a background a little bit more with different types of research, and one of the types of research that I focus on focuses on positive deviancy. And positive deviancy is this idea that if we're all going after the same problem, we all have the same problem in our job, but somebody's found a way to be successful when most people can't. What can we learn from that? From those people that have figured it out, right? And so we went away in our district away from a traditional district improvement plan process, because it became let's just chase this thing for this year and chase this thing for this year, and we didn't get anywhere. So what we did is we decided we're going to redo things in our district, come up with a continuous improvement plan, and our focus was on this idea of positive deviance and what do the best do different. And so we started by telling the story. I tell you a quick story of kind of gross, but we're not farther enough from lunch. In Africa, there is this thing called a guinea worm. Okay, and the guinea worm is this parasite that gets into the body of people, and obviously gets people very sick. But when it comes out like a worm from some spot in your body. So totally gross. So the Carter administration, or President Carter, after his time as president, was all this, philanthropic things. And so what he decided to do is he sent his team there to find out, okay, if this guinea worm issue is hitting all these villages, are there any villages that aren't being affected? Right? And so they ended up finding then that there were a couple villages that had no problems with this guinea worm. So they went to those villages and they studied that problem. They found out, okay, why in those villages is that not affecting these people? And they came back and they found that there's these 5 critical things that what made their villages different than everybody else is they did these 5 things, right? And so those critical behaviors are what made that village successful. So what we decided to do for our continuous improvement plan is let's follow that same model. Let's talk about what are those critical behaviors that our best teachers do that others don't. So we do a leadership retreat every year. So we went to Galena, and our admin team was all in the room. We had chart paper on the walls, and we said, who are the best teachers in your school? And we wrote down, Karen Lawrence. All right, what does Karen Lawrence do? Boom, we wrote down everything that Karen Lawrence did. Nalisha is one of our best teachers. All right, what does Nalisha do that gets such great results? And so we went through that process, and we looked at what all our administrators said were the best teachers in our district. And then we looked for common themes. And what were those common themes, those critical behaviors that our best teachers did that others didn't do? And so from that, then we came up with what became our what we call our academic transformation plan, which drives everything we do. And so we found that those 5 critical behaviors that our best teachers did is our best teachers form strong, caring relationships with and between students. Pretty obvious. Key, though, is with and between, right? And so that we saw they did that. We found that they have high expectations and clear targets. So all those great classrooms had that. That they created engagement through meaningful experiences. That they use data strategically, and data not always being test numbers, data also being, I can tell by the look in your eye that you have a question. That's data, and that's great data that we want to be using. So we saw that, and then there's the supplying feedback. So what we decided then is everything we're going to do in our district is totally 100% focused around those 5 things. And so from that, we said, all right, that is going to get us to college and career readiness. And if we focus on those things, our kids are going to exit with college and career readiness skills. And we're going to measure our success of those things by looking at individual student growth and student progress towards college and career readiness. So our IAR scores, etc. So, and then there's going to be some drivers that help us. Obviously, our teaching and learning, our personnel, finances, and community. So that was our push. So that focus then leads us to everything we do. So we have taken Danielson and we've whittled Danielson down because all we care about is those 5 things within Danielson. Not all 21 things, right? Only those 5 things is all we care about, because we know internally that's what's led to great instruction and great outcomes in our school. So, whoops. So kind of with that in mind then, oh, I hit the wrong button. With that in mind then, that's kind of what started to get us into defined learning. And so obviously that the F and focus, that first thing was the forming strong, caring relationships. And we knew then whatever programs that we put into place in our district must find a way to get kids to work well together and to build off the strengths of each other. And so the defined learning obviously fit in well with that. We also do this significant 72, which is the relationship building piece, and that is the foundation for so much that we do. And we are very, very big in our district on Kagan cooperative. So those tools then were of utmost importance for us, is that ongoing relationship mindset. Because as we know, relationships are the flame that fuels learning, right? And so we have to have that there. And then one of the things that's really helped for us with defined learning, as you'll learn more about it, is we do so much in the Kagan cooperative learning piece that that makes everything we do in defined learning so much better. Because as kids go through the different ages, that's just what they do, right? They know how to do cooperative learning. We don't have to reteach all these things. And so that really is our foundation. The other thing is, there's a tremendous amount we all know about, equity and things like that, focus in education. Cooperative learning is still the most research-based equity tool in education, but people don't use it enough. So anyway, I won't soapbox there. So that's really then, okay, does again, we call it the filter. Does everything we purchase go through our academic transformation plan filter? Is defined learning going to help because of the relationship? Is it going to help get us those 21st century skills? And then most importantly, is it going to help then create engagement through meaningful experiences? And as we all know, there's a big difference between a lesson and a meaningful experience, right? And I can't have a meaningful experience if I don't know the kids in front of me, right? If the kids in front of me don't know how to work together, the learning's not going to happen. And so we have to make learning relevant, as we all know, and that jumped off the page to us, with defined learning, and is that whole cultural relevancy piece, and not just the cultural relevancy piece, the relevancy piece in general, right? And the engagement that the tools brought, the ability for us, and again, if you haven't learned, I'm sure the ladies are going to go into a lot about defined learning, but it goes beyond just being able to go into defined learning and change the prompts to kids' names in my class. That's nice, but defined learning goes way beyond that, right? And one of the things that's really been exciting for us, and builds into what Nelisha, I'm sure we'll talk about later, is with the defined careers, that really now builds into the relevancy piece for our students. And, we have kids that, we've been using defined learning for a number of years. Defined careers, we just started this second semester. And, kids are going in and making flip videos. Was Flip, now Flip got bought by Microsoft, so that it's going to be Screencastify this new year. But they're developing and making videos of themselves within their career pathway and sharing that with each other to build that piece. So for us, it was just a natural piece, and has worked out incredibly well for us. And again, it totally goes through that filter for us, and it allows us to really build. And so for us, for example, we're all proud of our school districts. We had 6 of our 7 schools last year in the exemplary category. And so I'm super proud of that, right? And based on new scores that just came out, I would assume we're probably gonna be right there again. But more importantly, once we were able to zoom into some of the different pieces, one of the little pieces about defined learning that shed light for us, as we had a conversation with Julie, who was one of their team members, and Alicia, at one point around the cultural relevancy component. And we found that we had a huge hole in having the materials match our student population. And we're blessed because we're an incredibly diverse district. 50% of our students are free and reduced lunch. Again, very, very diverse, but our classroom materials weren't. And as we went through the different pieces with Nelisha and Julie, we found that the tasks that teachers were choosing, unfortunately, weren't the tasks that best represented the students. And that pushed us and forced us to take a deeper dive, first of all, in our defined learning tasks, but then it caused us to take a deeper dive into all of our materials. And so this past year, we rewrote our entire ELA curriculum. We spent just over $200,000 getting text that was representative of our students. And our overall district ELA growth on IAR this year, we had a 9-point gain just this last year. Our Black students went up 14%. 14%. When we had tasks and materials in front of them. Our Hispanic students went up 16%. And so again, huge growth, or I should say 16%, 16%, right? A higher percentage than that, but 16 percentage points. And so again, that's another component that we feel that defined learning brings. And and so for us, defined learning has been a wonderful partner. It focuses us, and I could go into specifically how with our staff, we've gone through every letter of focus with every single lesson that defined learning has and all that. But I just focused on those 2 big pieces. But again, a lot there for defined learning that we can use, and for us, it really fits perfectly with our plan. So that's a little bit about us and what we did. And
how do you incorporate it? Where is it incorporated?
Yeah, so we incorporated in a number of places. For each one of our science units, we have at least one defined learning activity or challenge project, and so we have one of those activities built in. We've chosen activities that supplement whatever else is going on in the unit, which then allows us different. And again, I think it's one of the nice things is it gives us a couple options of how to do it. So we have at certain certain units and certain grades, the defined learning is the activity that kicks off. It's a kickoff activity. For others, it's the end of the unit as more of a culmination. And we are not really happy. We have amplified science, which has been good. But I don't know if we're getting as much out of it that we'd like. So we're actually went into a special partnership with Defined Learning that started this spring, where we want to build our science curriculum almost completely around those activities. The key then for us, though, is the one thing that Defined Learning doesn't have yet, because it's not a full curriculum, is it doesn't have that initial base knowledge. You know, and so it's there, it's an extension. So if you're, you know, if you're trying to think of a good one. So middle school does some different things around the space exploration things. Well, they don't have the initial knowledge of here's the number of planets, here's the, you know, here's what, you know, they don't have that basic stuff. They have the extension, but it's easier to fill that basic knowledge, especially as we all know with so much out there. It's easier for us to fill that. And again, for us, it's going to be financially, I think, a better choice for us in the long run as well, because we're going to be able to get, you know, we can get the careers, the SEL component, and the defined learning component, and that's going to be cheaper than what we spend for our science. So, yeah. So, and we also then use the careers we use in a number of ways. We have an intervention block at the elementary, and that intervention time, after so many weeks of intervention, we take a week off. And that week off, kids are working on the careers. All kids focus their careers. We have our curriculum is set up on a 4+1 model. So we teach for 4 days and then do some type of formative assessment at the end of that 4th day. And the 5th day becomes an intervention and enrichment of that core teaching idea, you know, topic. And so sometimes the kids on that intervention and enrichment day, or the nice thing is we can have them go into defined learning. We can just type in we're standards based, so they can go in and search that standard, and we can find an extension activity that matches that standard right there. And so, you know, so there's a number of ways that we can. Awesome. All right. Well, I put my contact number and information up there, and I don't know how long you wanted me to talk. So hopefully that was a short, quick, and to the point. And all right.
And started to collaborate a bit more and be very intentional in our meeting with the curriculum content team, our curriculum team, to put together really important in science curriculum for what they already had, so they can have using the defined learning team as a great right. How we really customize our offerings based on our partner teams. We do not believe in every district partner is a little bit different in what your focuses are, you know, your teachers and students, what is meaningful to you. So we do that with very next up is so as I was listening to
Yes.
Okay. So, as I was listening to him, I really listened to that concept positive behavior. My background is school social work. And I went into education because I wanted to make a difference for people that have barriers to access to education. So I thought I wanted to be a secondary ed teacher. I wanted to be an English teacher. And then I found out about this thing called school social work, which I felt was more aligned to what I thought needed to happen in education for people that have barriers to access. And so as I was listening to you, I thought about universal design. So I wanted to keep in mind that everything we do should happen in a universal design so that it's applicable to all of your students and all of your families, and just the principles. Now, this is from kind of an architectural perspective. So the last principle talks about body size, but principle 1, equitable use. Principle 2, flexibility in its use. Simple and intuitive in use. Perceptible information. Number 5, tolerance for error. Low physical effort. And the last one, it talks about size and space for approach and use. And it's really talking more about body size. But when you think about it, size and space could also reflect a district. So whether the district is very small and only an elementary district, or whether it's a unit district like Kankakee was, preschool through age 21, defined learning works for all of it. So what I want to do a lot is talk about the why we partnered with Defined Learning. So I am from Kankakee, and I was the superintendent in Kankakee, so grew up there, was born there. And I knew before I became a superintendent some of the issues that we had as a community. And the major issue I felt that we had was access to education and understanding how systems work. Because I was with families like for 5 generations. For example, my son's best friend, great-great-grandmother was friends with my mother. And then his mother is best friends with my daughter. And so there are 5 generations of people that I have interacted with and know. And then what I noticed was that some people in this family, it's the Smith family, did really well and some didn't. And I just wanted to figure out what was the difference. The difference is opportunity. It's not education, because we all went to Kankakee School District 111. It's literally opportunity. And some people have more opportunities than others. Now I'm gonna give another quick example of why I partnered with Defined Learning initially. There are 2 families in Kankakee, and I won't say the name because everybody, for the last 50 or 60 years, everyone has a reputation. The Flowers family, which is my family, and then there's another family. And the reputation of this other family was very negative. And the reputation of our family was very positive. What was the difference? The gift in our family is that we had natural intellectual intelligence. Like we tested really high on tests, like really, really high. And I think that my brothers are much older than me, but when I look back, we was probably like a little bit on the spectrum, like Asperger's. I mean, because the intellect was very high. Then there's this other family, their athleticism was very high. Not necessarily their intellect, it was pretty average, but their athleticism was high. The things they said about this family, because that family originated from Mississippi, and the things that they said about our family was very different, but our parents did the exact same thing. Like they had gardens, they had chickens in the yard, they had all the same things. Both of them had the same behaviors, but their gifts were different. And so then how do you design an educational system that takes into consideration different student and family gifts and doesn't focus on their deficit? So when I went into Defined Learning, what I thought about is positive deviance. How are some people able to do well in the same community that are very close to each other in terms of they're growing up together, going to the same churches, the same schools, and then some aren't. And again, the difference is opportunities, but also once you have someone that's successful in your family, then you have a model. And that model can actually help you understand the process of going from preschool to college, or preschool to the military, or preschool to the trade. Like you have a model for how to do that. And so that's the thing that we want to create, is we want to replicate that model that happens naturally in some families and doesn't happen in other families. So when I became a superintendent in 2014, the first thing that I did was I created this rough sheet of I'm gonna go here and then I'm gonna come right back. I created this rough sheet of what I felt needed to happen in order for us to help children understand the process of going from kindergarten into a career. And so literally, I wish I would have had the original. Literally, I wrote down on a piece of paper what I thought first kindergartners should learn, first graders should learn, second graders should learn, and we created this chart of starting with the human services field. I felt that the younger students need to start there because they understood doctors, they understood teachers, they understood that. And then we went to the more complicated fields as the students matriculated up to about 5th grade. In 6th grade, they were tested, and then we wanted them to expose to projects that they could learn how to pretend to be a doctor. What does math have to do with being a doctor? What does science have to do with being a doctor? And so I created this on a sheet where I was scribbling, gave it to my assistant superintendent of instruction, who came from a cooperative, all students with disabilities, and said, how do we make this come alive? And at the time, it was called Define STEM. But prior to that, I don't remember what it was called. When we worked with them at our special ed school, I can't remember the name. It was still Define STEM. And so we said, well, we're going to get a hold of this group because they did that for us in our special ed school. And once we handed it to, we finally got a hold of someone from Define STEM. Actually, they were trying to call us, and we were trying to figure out who they were. And my assistant superintendent wouldn't talk to her because she didn't know who she was. But then finally, once we connected, we literally made this concept come alive. So the students are learning and experiencing all of the career fields starting as early as kindergarten, and they're practicing being a landscape architect. They're practicing being, like there are different fields that I had never even heard of, that they're learning about and practicing. And in that process, students were coming up with careers that may not have been directly associated with that defined learning project, but it was associated with the part of the activity that they did. So for example, we had a young man that ended up going to the Illinois Math and Science Academy that created an app out of a defined learning project. And then we actually learned that as I want to say a 5th or 6th grader, he actually could truly create apps, which we didn't know until we did that project. And so I passed out the PACE framework because this is a requirement that we're starting to look into helping students starting in the 8th grade with post-secondary opportunities and understanding. But what I'm hoping that we do in Illinois is we do not use it as a checklist. Like, and we think about what is the true intent of Illinois saying that we need this PACE framework. The true intent is to help all of our students understand the process of going from elementary school to the elementary district, go up to 8th grade, all the way through their post-secondary opportunity, whatever that opportunity ends up being. So that's the real intent. What I think we often do in education is we often look at what the state requires, and then we have a checklist to prove that we've done what they require. Even if it does not create meaning for the children and the families at the end, which the real intent is not always realized because we look at it as more checklist. Like, okay, we've got this in place, we've got this in place, we've got this in place. What I learned is, like, often what we do, it's kind of like this technology model that we have a substitution model versus a redefinition model. So, like, I actually believe that if public education doesn't redefine what we look like and what we do for children, we're going to be in trouble. Because the first industrial age, when schools were created, doesn't exist anymore. We're in the 4th industrial age, and we really haven't changed the school system in terms of its structure and truly understanding the original intent was to prepare children for life after high school. But I think somehow we've lost that intent because we've created this checklist of what we have to do for the state, and we haven't really understood what we need to do for children and their families. And so the goal is by the time a student is in the 5th grade, they have experienced these different career fields by actually becoming whatever the career strand is and whatever the project the teacher has chosen, that they have become that landscape architect. So they're actually experiencing what they have to do in order to become that person that they want to grow up to be. So, and I'll give you an example of why that's important. I was a cheerleader and I had a friend that said she wanted to be a pediatrician and she was failing science. And so, you know, if you know people that that don't have a lot of filters, I just said to her, how are you gonna be a pediatrician? I was young. You're gonna be a pediatrician, you're failing science. Like I said that to her. And then as I grew up, I realized that no one had made that connection with what she wanted to do as an adult to what she needed to do as a child. And that was the reason why she didn't understand that failing science is not going to help her become a pediatrician. And so this is what I think defined learning does for children, is it helps them understand, if I want to grow up to be this, what are the things that I need to know in terms of English, math, science, and social studies that are going to help me become that, whatever it is, that educator, that teacher, that doctor, that landscape architect. What do I need to do to go into that field based on practicing being that person? So I don't know if you can hear it or if it's gonna work. It may not work. Okay.
Defined Learning is a program that we use here in District 111 that allows students to explore career paths in a way that is open-ended.
A lot of students know about like lawyers and doctors and the things that we see all the time, but there's a lot of other careers out there that they may not know, and then they may be interested in by accessing these projects and doing some research.
Can you hear?
And being able to do some hands-on things with it.
We have used Defined Learning in my classroom, especially physics, for projects that are science-based. One of them comes to mind is the runway, define a runway. And so we can look at velocity, planes, we talk about the Lee effect, and students can learn things that wouldn't traditionally be in their curriculum.
I've really been surprised at the creativity that I've seen, where we've left it very open-ended and said, this is, last year we were focusing mostly on projects that were related to the climate crisis and different ways of solving the climate crisis. And some of the ideas that students had, the inventions that they came up with to solve those problems really showed a depth of thinking that you typically don't get in a normal just pen and paper or pencil project.
One of the good things about Defined Learning is that they tend to be open-ended. You can do it with the curriculum as you like. I had a particular student who wanted to be an engineer, and he's currently going to Holiday University. And he wanted to use AutoCAD software to design the fuselage of a plane. And so he delved into the career aspects of becoming an engineer and used Onshape specifically to design the wing shape, and applied these equations to it.
Defined Learning is a program that we use here in District 111 that allows students, Defined Learning is.
Okay. So, so going back to what I originally said, that if you go back to the original intent of public education, then we understand that the purpose of education is to prepare us for life after high school. And I think that's what we have missed. Defined Learning helps students, regardless of where they are in terms of socioeconomic status, help students to understand what I need to do now in order to reach those goals of post-secondary education. I have to fix this. So we live in a different world, and so we have to take that into consideration when we're designing instruction and classroom instruction. So we have to have flexible learning. After COVID, we found out that we could, I understand that some students struggled in COVID, but I have a lot of students that did better going into COVID than they did before COVID. In fact, my son is an example. He never went back to school full time, because that freshman year that he was in Kankakee and was going to school part-time, he had grades that I didn't imagine that he could get. Because whatever was in the school system was somehow impeding him from reaching his full potential. And so from freshman year to senior, he just graduated class of 2024, he stayed in a modified schedule. And he did still have defined learning activities, he still had his content, but he didn't go to school 7 hours a day. He had a 4.1 GPA, which when he was a fifth grader, I did not think that that was possible for him because he just struggled in school. And so we need to take what we learned from COVID and take what we learned from that experience and figure out the positive deviance. Like, what is it that happened that was positive and focused on creating a system that combines what was positive and traditional and was positive through COVID and create a new system. And defined learning can do that for you as long as you're not thinking of it as a checklist, we did this, and you're thinking about an experience and opportunities for students. So you have flexible learning opportunities that are career focused. So when I designed his education after that freshman year, I truly designed it around what he wanted to do when he graduated from high school. And he's an athlete. What he wants to do is start his own business in athletic recovery. And so the things that he did during the day when he wasn't in school were related to athletic recovery. So he learned about cryotherapy. He learned about all of those things by actually experiencing it in the middle of the day. Like we actually took him to a cryotherapist and he actually experienced cryotherapy in the middle of the day. And so everything that I did from his sophomore year on was related to what he wanted to do and why he needed to achieve these better grades in order to do it. So now my sister, who's a doctor, wants him to go into, to be a sports medicine, go into sports medicine as a doctor, but he does not want to do that because he doesn't want to go to school that long. And her comment to me was, he's young. And so what's important about having more meaningful projects and experiences for the students is that even if they decide as a sophomore, no, I don't want to do that, I want to get a bachelor's or a master's, and that's it, by the time they get to be 21, 22, you have the experiences that they need to know that they can take their career goal further than they thought that they could take it. The reason I fell in love with defined learning is because I felt like school needed to be different, but still meet the true intent of school in the first place. And so through this process of having students experience what it takes to learn to be in the career field that they have chosen as early as 5th and 6th grade, what I have found was that I can't say that our test scores have significantly changed, but the opportunities have significantly changed. So at the beginning, I talked about those two families, the Flowers family and the other family. So just recently, in the class of 2023, we had a young man that went to college that is in that family, and it's a Division I school, he's playing football. Then we had another young man also in that family, that other family, not the Flowers family, the other family that went to Georgia and got a $300,000 NIL, like literally a $300,000 NIL. We had another young man that not in either of those two families, but their family, their gift was athleticism, because I knew his family when they were younger and how athletic they were. He just bought a Mercedes. He got almost a $500,000 NIL. And I know that there's a lot of controversy about that, but just like I had the opportunity to be a superintendent and make a lot of money in my field, they're having the opportunity to make a lot of money in their gift. And so what I feel needs to happen, and defined learning will help you do that, is that students figure out their gifts, what they're good at, and then they start honing in on their gifts and what they're good at and what career fields they should go into that are related to their gifts. And I think that's what public education is about. It's not about catering to those kids that naturally test really well on a test. It's about figuring out the gifts and the abilities across the board, universal design, and how do you design a system that takes in consideration of various gifts, the abilities, disabilities, whether you're regards of ethnicity, regards of socioeconomic status. How do we address all the needs of all of our children and families? And defined learning sincerely will do that. Now, we had a lot of barriers, not student barriers, adult barriers. And the major barrier that you have from adults is that in order to design a system that takes into consideration the needs and the differences among all the people in your community, you can't do exactly the same thing at the exact same time with all of the students. And that's a struggle for many of the classroom teachers, is figuring out, like, how do I create a flexible classroom instructional design? And so we figured out in the last 3 years, maybe, how to do that. We've been doing this for almost 10 years. So we figured out in the last 3 years, but what I have seen in the last 3 years is significant increased student engagement and a lot more discussion about what I want to do when I grow up, and understanding the stages and the systems that need to be in place in order to achieve that long-term goal. Before we started working with Defined Learning, I felt like we had a lot of gifts and talents that were not realized because we didn't have a system that catered to the different needs and the different talents within our community. So I don't know if there are any questions. In combination with the academics. So that if I want to be a scientist, I understand that I need to pass science. If I want to be an attorney, I understand that I need to really pay attention to English and history. And that was the disconnect that I felt, that I saw with some of the students and the families, is really not understanding the connection between here and now and setting a long-term goal. And how do you connect the two to make sure that 10 years from now, I don't miss my goal because I didn't know the process of getting it. So now this is another thing that the teachers misunderstood. This is not in lieu of academics. This is making academics come alive and helping students understand, why am I in this classroom in the first place? Like, why am I taking geometry and I want to learn how to lay rules? Like, they see the connection between geometry and going into the trade, instead of seeing this disconnect and not understanding the process of getting. So what I predict is, when my kids that I have been with for the last 10 years get to be adults and they have their own families, they'll be able to kind of replicate what a lot of middle class and up families do naturally.
Get of that career wheel embedded into pretty much everything that you have started. Gave us the structure of being really, again, intentional, of students kindergarten through 5th grade being exposed to the various career years, so that it really impacts their pathway work going forward. Thank you, Hannah. So I'm actually gonna give us a 15-minute break before we have our next speaker, if that's okay with everyone. And then we'll regroup at, let's say, 11:10, and then finish our presentation for today.
There's bathrooms up here, also down the stairs, right around this corner, refrigerator. And there's a current coffee.
Good morning, everyone. All right, so yeah, my name is Rufus, educational consultant. I want to bring this full circle. I'm from Kankakee, Illinois. Former superintendent is Dr. Walters, principal, and as well as a student. What I find amazing, I was looking at the video, I was like, I know that teacher used to work in the district. They've been teaching the same way when I was a kid. So I like to credit that to Dr. Walters and that shift to more project-based learning, which has an impact on students. From my personal as well as professional experience with it, I decided to write a book that really advocates for project-based learning, talks about the future of education is rooted in PBL. And I really believe that, especially within our Black and Brown communities. Students are more engaged with PBL. You can still teach the content, but make it more, creative to the student that you're supporting. So this book I have put together here, as a researcher and advocate for PBL, I am committed to providing equitable curriculum choices that resonate with the lived experiences of students. And I believe that's what Greg talked about, with providing equitable supports for students. The issue at hand extends beyond merely teaching facts and theories. It's about crafting a curriculum that marries students' realities and equips them with the tools to enhance their conditions and affect meaningful change within our community. We talk about college and career readiness, which is great. You want to learn the skills needed, so when you get introduced to a career, you'll be ready for it. In most of our fields, we focus on the college aspect, but we rarely focus on the career aspect. So I do love the fact with project-based learning, defined learning, that you can expose your students to more career opportunities. So when they do graduate or leave your school, they'll at least have the prior knowledge and the ability to know what they want to get themselves into. Inquiry-based learning. It encourages the student with PBL to explore, ask questions, and seek answers through investigation. And that can be like a Socratic seminar. You know, at our school, we used to give our students the task, the performance task, and have them work that thing out. Conversations with one another, they can debate, talk about argumentative, takes with it. It's all a great way to welcoming diversity, ensuring inclusion is present in the classroom. I love the fact that defined learning has that inquiry-based learning approach to it. Also, we talked about culturally relevant teaching. Culturally relevant teaching involves creating learning experiences that reflect the diverse culture backgrounds of students. You can give out a needs assessment, some type of asset map to your students to figure out what they'd like to do. Sometimes we have to adjust our instructional practice to meet the needs of the students that we serve, opposed to them having to adjust the way that they like to learn to meet our learning, our teaching preference. And that's what defined learning does. It provides them that opportunity after you look at your students and know the cultural differences within the classes that you're supporting, to giving them more culturally connected materials that they can relate to. By incorporating students' cultural references into the curriculum, we validate their identities and provide a more inclusive and engaging learning environment. And we did this all day long. I think Dr. Walters talked about, becoming an engineer, being exposed to that at an early age, being exposed to medicine, science, and things of that nature. Takes you out the limit of the existence of what you're currently learning, the academic component, 24/7, but more hands-on opportunities for your kiddos. Those real-world connections, connecting classroom learning to real-world situations, enhances the relevance of educations. The students are likely to be engaged and motivated when they see how their learning applies to their lives in the communities, right? Whenever you have students and you start to see the more engaging parts of them coming out, you start to see attendance is increasing. They're asking questions. They're showing that they're advocating for themselves through voice. That's all part of that, real world connection. And again, that student engagement, it is key. It is the key factor in the student success. PBL inherently promotes engagement in involving students in hands-on, meaningful projects that require active participation and collaboration. And I was thinking about this too. A lot of our schools out there may have a teacher shortage. You can benefit from utilizing project-based learning, especially for ourselves that are coming into the schools right now. And you can't just expect them to create these lesson plans and to, have the same ideology or approach to teaching as your regular traditional teacher, but just giving them a chance to say, listen, here's the PBL activity, here's the performance task. You guys can work that thing out, they can problem solve, come up with a solution. And guess what? You're increasing that engagement. And last but not least, I spoke about this earlier, the student agency. Empowering students with agency means giving them a voice and choice in their learning. Now, let me say something about this. Once you expose them to that defined learning, that PBL aspect, you can't go back to the traditional style of teaching. The students are not going to allow it. They're going to say, no, this is not engaging, I'm bored. You have to keep them going with PBL. It allows students to take ownership of their projects, make decisions, and drive their learning process. This autonomy leads to increased motivation, confidence, and a sense of responsibility. And last but not least, to enable students to take academic ownership and showcase their knowledge and understanding while engaging in dialogue. And I spoke about that Socratic seminar. It is critical to push for project-based learning. PBL supports the development of critical thinking and problem-solving skills. In my book, it took, I'll say, 2 years to put this book together, but I was so determined to talk about PBL with the support of defined learning and my personal as well as professional experience with this. I talk about vocational education, the art of education, the STEM component, as well as career technical education. There was a school that I went to go visit with my cohort here in New York. And this school was 110% project-based learning, right? And what I liked about the school is that according to most of the schools in their district, they were the most high-performing school out of the whole district because kids were able to advocate for themselves, right? It's not all about facts and opinions. Sometimes you have to sit there and show a sense of grit, right? You have to sit there and problem solve. But if you know, when you have PBL, you're putting students in a situation where they can problem solve and work collaboratively with one another. You're increasing those critical thinking skills. And that's what a lot of jobs like out there. You know, we want people to be able to speak and work in diverse settings. And that's something that Define Learning can promote. So this book is available on Amazon.com. I'm not really here to promote my book, but I just want to let you guys know that if you're looking for a mentor support or something to give to your staff members around PBL before you even go into Define Learning, it gives the foundation of the importance. And again, it is the future of education. The traditional factory assembly line way of teaching and learning is out the window. This is the future, and I'm going to advocate for it. And I want to thank everybody here, and I want to thank Define Learning representatives for definitely allowing me to be part of this platform today. Any questions? Again, a lot of this information, and like I said, I'm a student from Kankakee, and I'm a former principal. We work with Define Learning at an alternative high school, right? And it was beneficial with our students that were considered alternative students, but it can be beneficial to all students. And if our students were able to thrive with this successfully, I know all students also report. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you. Wisdom and being in the classroom and a principal and understanding the importance of this type of teaching and learning. So I just want to bring a shout out to the team here from Define, myself, Brandon Kenny, our Vice President of Partnerships, as well as Nikki Builder. She is our Manager of Partnerships. All three of us actually work collaboratively throughout the state of Illinois. So, you know, we thought it was important to bring thought leaders into a room together and collaborate and share ideas of how you guys are, once again, the various things that you're faced with, the various mandates that your teachers have to accomplish in the classroom. And again, tying into the overarching goals as district leaders and what you'd like to accomplish in your classrooms. Now, our mission here at Define is all about empowering educators to provide students with career connecting learning opportunities while building future ready skills through project-based learning process. The way we do that is taking these key skills and competencies, being very mindful and intentional about incorporating that into all of the content that we provide and Define, providing engaging opportunities for students to demonstrate deeper understanding of the various academic standards that they're being taught in the classroom. So in our Defined ecosystem, it is comprised of Define Learning, our flagship site, which was really centered around project-based learning, but also bringing relevance to the classroom, doing it through a career-connected way. We have entry points in all your core subject areas. So your math teacher, your science teacher, ELA teacher, your social studies teacher can all incorporate this model into their classrooms with their students. So again, for all students, all classrooms. I love that Dr. Fitch gave insight into an alternative program. A lot of times when we share Defined, immediately they're like, oh, our gifted and talented, but all students truly benefit by this framework. Define Careers is the extension of the work that we were doing in Define Learning, now taking the exposure that we do in Define Learning a step further to giving students authentic opportunities to explore and experience careers. And then Defined Academy is our professional learning. So we provide professional learning in, you know, hybrid models. We do in-person, virtual, all different types of trainings. And our trainings are customized based on our partners' needs. Because once again, we're going to take the goals that you have as a district and we're going to bring that to your teachers and provide them with the tools necessary to bring those goals to life. So I'm going to provide you with a quick overview of the Define Learning site and how teachers use it. So I am logged in as a teacher now in Define Learning. And you'll see the various tiles. This is our Illinois demo account. So your teachers normally wouldn't see this many tiles. The tiles usually are a math tile, a science, ELA, social studies, as well as art integration. We also provide customized work. So some of our partners actually provided us with their portrait of a graduate, specific skills and competencies they want to measure student growth over time. And we bring that to life in the site where the teachers can have a pre-vetted project that aligns to portrait of a graduate skills and competencies, as well as our traditional rubric, and they can score on those skills. And then again, you will provide you the data of growth over time. So I'm going to go into science for our example today. And I'm going to go to this middle school life science unit, but no matter what subject area, you're going to see the same look and feel. K through 12 opportunities to embed defined learning into your classrooms. Now, once you go into the various courses, we're providing teachers tools throughout in using our site. So we always provide a quick summary of, what is this unit about? How do you incorporate this course in your classroom with our course playbook? Teacher task plans provide teachers an outline or a map of how much time goes into each section of the project so they can plan accordingly. And then we have student task plans to guide your students as they're working through our projects as well. These unit outlines are super helpful because they can really align to your scope and sequence for the school year, and teachers can find useful and valuable projects based on the units that they're actually teaching. And everything we do is through that career lens. So students will see the various careers tied back to the units that they're being taught in the classroom. So the first unit is all about molecules and systems, growth and development and reproduction. And then we have heredity and then biological adaptation. So again, just incorporating the various units that teachers are teaching throughout the school year and giving them authentic opportunities to incorporate these units into their classroom and various topics. Now, for your students, it's an engaging audiovisual slideshow that they're going to go through. So I've selected an app developer, athletics and body systems. So we're tying now to that computer science component. So students are going to develop an app that is going to help with athletes that are training. So we always start off with a 30-second video that gives students insight into the actual career. So what does an app developer do? So this 30-second video would give insight into who is an app developer and what do they do. We then have a real world connection video. Now this is a career professional that does this for a living. So this is an athletic director for Marquette, and he explains his, job role and how it connects to the classroom. So all about being meaningful and intentional about connecting our content to the classroom. These videos, usually around 3 to 5 minutes, but again, it's a great interview of that career professional so students can see that. And then we have check-ins throughout. So these are, great exit slips for the students to share with their teachers, are they on task with completing the project? And we incorporate the understanding by design model in all of our projects. So that framework is essentially putting students in a hypothetical situation. They're now taking on the role of that career professional, and they're going to apply the areas that they're taught in the classroom to these real world problems or situations to demonstrate that deeper understanding. So again, answering that age-old question, why am I learning this and when will I ever use it? So I'm not going to play the video because I want to be mindful. Actually, this video is not that long, so I will play it for us today. 1 second.
Your goal is to develop an app that will help athletes meet their training goals. Your role is to assist in creating content for an app that will help athletes prepare their bodies for the upcoming sports season. Your first audience will be the app developers who will be creating this app based upon your work. Your second audience will be individuals and teams purchasing the app. A majority of these people will be coaches, athletes, and their parents. You are part of a team of physical trainers specializing in nutrition, cardiovascular exercise, and physical training. Your group has been hired by an app developer to assist in creating an app that will help athletes prepare their bodies for the upcoming sports season. You are developing the content that will be displayed in an app. Your content should help athletes understand how their bodies are made up of systems that all work together to help accomplish various exercises and athletic activities. They will need to understand the connection between the mind, nutrition, and systems associated with athletics. The success of the app will be directly connected to how well your team helps the user understand the importance of the body systems and their work within and between systems. You will need to make sure that the content will work for a number of sports and athletic activities.
So the video really serves as a great springboard for the student into the actual project that they will be creating. We're going to always start off with research. So the bulk of students' time is spent doing that research, asking them some open-ended questions to think about as they begin that research process. We do highlight vocabulary words students would need to be familiar with in order to create the product effectively. And then research resources are provided for your teachers, so they're not having to look for resources to share with their students. Your teachers do have the ability to add additional resources if they feel they want to share something specific with their students, but there is no need to do that. And with product choice, it's always going to connect to the subject area that the teacher has selected, as well as a specific unit that the teacher has selected. And we're going to give the teachers some opportunities to provide different products to their students. So this is a menu of options that teachers have available to them. And it's up to the teachers to pick what product they want the students to create, or they might give the students the opportunity to pick what product they would like to create. Each one of these product options will provide detailed instructions for the students as to what goes into creating that product. And we're always going to walk your students through that engineering and design process, starting brainstorming your ideas, analyzing and deciding what idea you like to go with. And as you start to create, you might need to revise based on what's happening during that creation process. And we close out all of our projects with a final reflection from the students. This is where they share how they felt about the project. If they are working in groups, you can ask them questions about how did you feel about your group? Where do you feel like you were strong or might need to improve? Again, everything on our site can be customized, so teachers have the ability to edit any of the pieces that I've shown you. Down here, we provide additional tools for your teachers. Each product, I'm not sure why that's not loading, but each product would have a unique rubric that aligns to that product on a 4-point scale, and teachers would use that in their grading process. They can, again, if they wanted to edit the rubrics that we provide, here are the check-in questions that students are answering. And again, teachers have the ability to edit. Resources is very important for the teacher. This gives teachers insight into how they implement this project into their classrooms, and also provides them with suggestions on materials. All the materials we require and define are things that you already have in your classrooms or easily found around the home. So there's no need to invest in additional materials for students to complete our projects. And then everything we do and define is anchored around the state-based standards. So you would see the standards highlighted here as well. So there must be something going on with the technology why the standards aren't shown, but it would highlight the standards for 6th through 8th grade in this project. Last but definitely not least is our Defined Careers connection. So embedded in Defined Learning now, students have the ability to learn more about the actual career pathway that they just did a project in. And the reason why that is so helpful is because now it's giving students the ability to now start that exploration in Defined. And then if you want to define careers as, opportunity for students as well, they can actually go right into that career experiences. So right here, if the student wants to learn more about, becoming a computer programmer. Oh, let's see, maybe I need to log back in. Maybe that's why. Sorry about that. Let me just get back to where we were. Did I pass it? Huh? It's not there anymore. Oh, there it is. There we go. All right, so we were on that Defined Careers connection, so hopefully it loads. All right, perfect. So they click on that tab and it provides them a detailed overview of this career. So a computer programmer, these are the other names that this job might go by, gives a brief summary of the job itself, how much education is required to get into this job, the job outlook, the median salary, is it a growing industry, about how much would I be making on the job, you would be doing this. Here are some of the natural abilities that you might have to possess in order to do well in this career field. Here's some background knowledge you would have to have, the technology that is part of this job, personality traits. So we kind of tap into all of that information for the student, and then the student has the ability to then go directly into Defined Careers and experience that career. So it's going to give the students a great insight into, if I were to do this career, what would a day in the life look like for this career professional? In Defined Careers, it is 5 lessons that the student goes through. The third lesson is the key lesson where we are bringing that experience to life using project-based learning. The first 2 lessons, the first lesson is a video of the career cluster, explaining the career cluster and the pathways that are embedded in that career cluster. The second video is all about the actual pathway in the career that the student is enrolling the course for. So this is a bit more specific to the actual career, how much education, what companies hire for this job. So again, giving students a ton of insight into the career. And then they would do a project or create a product in that third lesson. The fourth lesson is, one of my favorites because it is a career roadmap. So it really maps out for the student, how do I get into this career once I've had that experience? Maybe I'm really enjoying this career. So again, it provides that overview of the job itself. On the job, here are some of the things that you would be doing. We're going to highlight that average salary, whether it's a growing industry, and then students can see secondary programs that support them getting into this career. And then for your high school level students, some middle school, maybe 8th grade, they can have the opportunity to create a personal monthly budget based on that median salary. So again, giving them a ton of insight into whether or not this career might be a good fit for them once they are done with school. And the fifth and final lesson is just a career survey to gauge where the student is at in their career exploration journey. Now, on the student dashboard, I think I am logged in as a teacher, but I would love for you. Okay, so in the student dashboard, it will also incorporate, again, if you wanted to highlight your portrait of a graduate or specific skills and competencies you want your students to have, they can see their progress in those areas in, incorporating that into the site. We then also have opportunities for students. So in Defined Careers, students have the ability to explore the full library. It's not necessarily something where teachers are pulling content and sharing it with the student like Defined Learning. Defined Careers, students can really be in charge of their career exploration and experiences. And it's going to incorporate all 16 career clusters, 79 career pathways, and over 700 career experiences. So it's a pretty robust library. There's a couple different ways for students to manage their career exploration. The first way is through our career assessment. In this assessment, it's about 20 minutes in length, and it's going to measure your students on these 3 key areas: their study preferences, their interests, and their work values. It then provides the student with their top 4 career pathways for them to learn a bit more and start their exploration journey. Each one of these pathways break down the careers by post-secondary education commitment. So we are highlighting careers that you can do right out of high school, things that might require vocational or technical certification, or things that follow that more traditional path of 4 or more years. About half of our library is dedicated to less than 4 years, and the other half is dedicated to 4 or more years. So again, just giving students a lot of insight into the various career opportunities that are out there for them. They again can have a quick summary about the career, the median salary, and whether or not it is a growing industry. Now, in our career courses tab for your students, they can do a keyword search. So maybe they heard of this really cool career and they want to see if we have an opportunity for them to explore and experience it. They can type that career in here. Educators or students can search for careers by the career cluster or the career pathway. So if you were to go into one of our career clusters, I need to log back in here too. It's not loading properly. So in our career courses, so they can look through careers by the career cluster or the actual career pathway. So maybe the student is really interested in the health science cluster and then you'll see all the different pathways are checked, but they want to learn more about support services. So they can then highlight experiences that we have in specific pathways that way. It also is a great way for teachers to maybe highlight a specific cluster and pathway for students as well and share or recommend careers based on the specific cluster pathway. We also have course dedicated to financial literacy. I know that's a new, really hot item for districts, and there are some requirements coming into place nationwide for financial literacy. So this is a course that would take care of that requirement. And post-secondary planning is another area for students to learn more about, as well as development of soft skills.
That's a big piece of students entering the workforce. How are they in their soft skills? So we have a whole course dedicated to helping students with their soft skills. Our soft skills are also embedded in our virtual internships as well. So they are developing 2 soft skills in each one of those virtual internships. And the opportunities tab, this is where if you have local industrial partners that you are working with, or have specific industry you want to steer your students into, you can have those businesses highlighted in our site and our work-based learning opportunities. And this is also where students would find opportunities to do a virtual internship that can possibly turn into an actual in-person internship as well. College and Future tab is a search for programs that would support the various careers that students want to get into. We give students the ability to heart or like a specific college or program so that they can easily go back to that program for future reference, but they can search by the name of the institution, the location, and the type of college as well. Students, all the while that they're using Define Learning and careers, they are developing and creating a portfolio of all the work that they're doing. So, we do give students the ability to upload and create a resume. Here are their defined careers experience. These are their defined learning experiences. And then we do give students the ability to upload any personal items. So if they want to add their ACT, SAT scores, or if they've done acts of community service, they have the ability to just have everything housed in one area and be able to take that with them very quickly. Once students have gone through that career assessment, we also have an aptitude test that students can do that's a bit more in depth for students to highlight their top 4 career pathways. The aptitude test takes about 2 hours, and it's going to really hone in on students' skills and natural abilities and then provide them with their career recommendations based on how they went through that aptitude test. So you can do both the career assessment and the aptitude, or either or. It's really up to you, or neither. Some of our district partners have assessments that they already have in place and love those assessments, and then they just use our library for the experiences for students. Either way, students will get this final report that goes over in detail their results in the various assessments that they might have done. It's going to also capture all the careers that they've experienced as well as the recommended careers. And then as a district, you can oversee a lot of that work that students are doing with this career experience log. So it's really capturing all the various career experiences students have had in Define Learning as well as Define Careers. So you'll get an idea of where is the student leaning. So maybe a career counselor or someone in CTE would be able to see that information and then provide recommendations based on the experiences that students have had thus far. So I'm going to pause there and give you an opportunity to ask any specific questions that you might have.
Once they do something that they can do themselves, they automatically more engaged. I don't know if I like it, but a lot of the athletes are all saying that they want to go to training, they want to go to like every one of them. My son is an athlete. Every one of them are picking fields that maybe 2 years ago they wouldn't pick, but they're picking fields related to what they like. What I don't like is it's still kind of narrow. But what I mentioned is the young man that had the opportunity to get all this money, like he might struggle right now.
Mm-hmm.
And so like that's kind of like the way that I look at it. And then I'm looking at developing a generation of people that the next generation of the next.
Thank you, Dr. Wallace, and Brandon's absolutely correct. We've taken that career wheel that Dr. Walter sketched and really embedded it in a lot of the things and areas that we provide as well. So for the defined careers model that I just shared with you, that is for 6th through 12th grade students. We do have defined careers for K through 5 as well. That is embedded in Define Learning. So this is similar in defined learning that teachers have access to the library and they are sharing content with the students K through 5. And then 6 through 12, students have access to the full library and are able to find content that way. But just for your K through 5 students, defined careers is really great as well, because again, the intention is by the time they finish 5th grade, they would have had exposure to all 16 career clusters. So they can be mindful in exploring those clusters and pathways once they get access to the full library 6 through 12. So in K through 2, we have all 16 career clusters, and we're providing students with one opportunity in each one of those clusters. And then for your 3rd through 5th grade students, we have 2 opportunities, and they are not repetitive. So they are still the same 16 career clusters, but different careers are highlighted in those 16 career clusters 3 through 5. In addition to the actual career clusters K through 5, we also have financial literacy for your 3rd through 5th graders, really starting early on those kids so that they will be financially aware. And then we have a whole module dedicated for entrepreneurship 3 through 5 as well. So you can do defined careers K through 12, just like you can do defined learning K through 12. Yes.
That students are getting exposed to things just imagine. There's a lot, especially with first time, if there's not someone that went to college in their family, then they're sometimes limited in what they understand opportunity. And so this gives them an opportunity for all of these years that maybe they weren't exposed to in their own personal life.
Yes, definitely. It's giving students the opportunity to learn about all different types of careers, things that they see in their everyday life and things that they might not have known existed. Since I've been working with Defined for the last 10 years, I've been exposed to so many different careers that like artificial island design. A real estate agent was one of the first ones that I was exposed to when I started working with the company. I'm like an artificial design real estate agent. So they built the Dubai Islands and, designed it based on a palm tree. And now they're real estate agents that are selling that land to people. So I didn't even know that was a career opportunity until I was at Defined. And again, students cannot be what they cannot see. So giving them the opportunity to see all different types of careers and different opportunities to get into those careers really close that opportunity gap that some students may have. Mhm.
So lucky for these kids, they have lucky to see school program at the end. Yeah, so cool, right? Yeah, I don't know if everybody realizes that, even though you think that kids have opportunities, I know somebody had never been young to. Me about.
All right, well, that concludes my presentation of the Defined Learning as well as career platform. If you have any questions for myself or any member of my team, please feel free to reach out to us. We are providing lunch, and that should be here shortly. Here is a QR code that actually links you to the full presentation deck that we use here today, as well as my contact information. So thank you all.
state is asking you to do a lot of things, but in the same amount of time. And so how do you do that?